Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Oh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central.
Round the Hay Bale Unscripted is brought to you by...
With gardening season at an end, Cayce certified organic products are still what your soil needs.
From overwintering fruit trees to preparing your soil for spring, Cayce calcium-based fertilizer gives the essential minerals they need to thrive.
Applying Cayce to agricultural soils and water has been proven to increase plant and crop yields while making vegetables and grains healthier and more nutritious.
In addition, Cayce can help restore the nutrient balance in animals when they are fed plants grown using Cayce in both soil and water.
To check out all of Cayce's organic products, visit cayce.com and use the promo code HAYBALE for 10% off your purchase.
Grab a cup of joe and gather round the hay bale with your hosts, Alicia from Country Mama Musings, Anne from Andale Homestead, Cayce from OrmsbyFarms, and Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch. Now, here they are, unscripted. Hey, y'all. Hey!
Well, hey, y'all. Hey, it's Monica.
Hey, everyone. It is Cayce. Welcome back.
Hey, everybody. It's Ann.
And it's Alicia from Country Mama Musings. And yeehaw! Boy, thank you to our music producer, Kyle Kelly, for that great intro to Round the Hay Bale. Hey, y'all. Hey. Well, we are back with you with a new unscripted episode of Round the Hay Bale. And today we are discussing getting the kids involved on the homestead. And you know what's really great is we're going to be having a multi-generational approach. Some of us are preparing to have children. Some of us have children. Some of us have grandchildren. And so we're going to talk to you about all of the great things and ways that you can get your children involved with you on your homestead. Okay, so, in the final part of our relationship topic that we discussed last week on our podcast, all of us sat down and we talked to y'all about getting kids involved in homesteading. We talked about just keeping all of your relationships in check and making sure that you have a good relationship / homestead balance. And now we're going to have some opinions from not only your hosts and but hopefully you'll be able to chat in when we have our radio show following our podcast. But we're going to talk about views from grandmothers, mothers, soon to be parents, and this is going to be a really great discussion. So make sure you stick around and see what all we've got to say. So I'm going to throw it over to the resident mama. And, actually, I'm going to send it over to Monica and see, because she got all of them babies and I know she keeps them busy on her homestead. She's going to have a lot of tips to share. Monica?
Okay, so we were talking, it's really awesome because we have a variety of people here that we're going to, discuss whether we're grandmoms or whether we're moms or whether we're going to be dads someday soon. The thing is that we all have kids come to our homestead every now and then. And I know, Cayce, you may not even have a chance to foster or adopt or anybody in the next year or so, right? But you're going to have events hosted at your place and you're going to have opportunities to host kids. And I think that's super cool because having the opportunity to host kids at your homestead and getting them involved in your hands-on homesteading, right? That's really what you want to do. And so for us, one of the things we like to do is, people are always like, oh, I don't give my kids chores. Well, my kids, we all work together here. We're just a big family and we work together. So one of the things that I like to do is allow our kids to have those opportunities to not just to have chores, but to have responsibilities. That's what we call them here is we have area of responsibilities. We have responsibilities indoors and we have responsibilities outdoors. And one of the things we like to do is give kids animal responsibilities. We like to give responsibilities where they're taking care of certain animals, they're taking care of certain products on the farm. I have my 7-year-old who loves to get in the garden with me. So whenever I'm doing gardening stuff, I'm always like, hey, buddy, I'm going to go plant some vegetables, or I'm going to go plant some herbs. Do you want to come with me? And he is usually the first one to jump on it. So I try to make sure that I'm including them in fun things, not just their responsibilities, because they also have stuff where I'm like, hey, bud, don't forget to go feed the pigs. And the 15-year-old begrudgingly goes out there. But, we try to remind each other that we are a team. Whenever the kids give us that, oh, I don't feel like going out right now and taking care of such and such, we're always like, well, do you enjoy bacon?
Right.
Do you enjoy turkey dinner? Do you enjoy eating green beans? Do you enjoy these things? Well, if you do, then you'll help out and we'll work together as a family. One of the things we do is we really try to get them involved and have fun with it, but we also try to remind them that we are a team, and this is like the ultimate team sport. We're playing this game together, and we're playing this, this big activity. This homesteading journey is all of us together. It's not just mom and dad. It's everyone. So we try to make it fun. We try to give them responsibilities that are suited to their age and abilities as well. So I think that that's important to remember too. So how are you looking to get people and getting kids involved on your homestead, Cayce?
Well, first off, I want to say how amazing your kids are.
Absolutely.
And knowledgeable. When the Blands football team came to visit my homestead last year, it is insane how knowledgeable these kids are, y'all. Like, when I was thinking, like, we were talking about where I was going to put my pigs and this and this, and these kids are like, no, we got to do this, that. And I'm like, wow, can you write that down for me? Write it down for this old man that's trying to learn.
Luke's book of how-to.
Yes, especially for pigs, because Luke knows. But all of them are super knowledgeable. I called Monica the other day about a turkey, not knowing if it was a boy or a girl. And I think getting your kids involved on the homestead and having them learn these things is some of the best education they could get. And Monica, you've said it before with homeschooling your kids, because that's what I'm looking into doing. For those that have followed me, I'm in the process of fostering and then fostering to adopt.
Awesome.
But I would like to homeschool, and using farm chores or farm responsibilities to intertwine them with science class or intertwine it with what they're learning is important, because farm kids are, especially homesteading farm kids, seem to be a lot more knowledgeable about street smarts, more than 7 divided by 6 plus 1 take away 16 math. Right.
Yeah, that's definitely chicken math over here too. It's more like poultry math here. We don't just stop with chickens. We extend it to turkeys,
poultry math,
and ducks and all that too. But you're right, Cayce. You make a good point, because math and things like that's real life though. I just telling my kids the other day, my 13-year-old is deep in the heart of multiplying, dividing, adding and subtracting fractions, and he's like, why do I even need to know this? And I'm like, first of all, because you need to finish 7th grade math, because you're getting into 8th grade this year. And second of all, because you need fractions. Fractions are everywhere. He's like, really? Where? And I'm like, you'll see. And like later on, I was like, all right, I'm going to double this recipe for dinner. And he was like, okay. And I'm like, well, I need 3/4 cups, but I need to double it. And he's like, seriously? Now you're going to make me do math? But yeah, seriously, I'm going to make you do math, because in order to double, you have to multiply or add, fractions. And you're going to have to do this. So, we try to keep really homeschooling in a real world way. And we do enjoy doing that here on the homestead, because it's important to know when you're gardening or when you're dealing with your animals, you have to be able to know that stuff. And as an adult, it's hard sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 26 head of cattle. I'm going to need, that's one of the things we were just talking about the other day. I have 26 head of cattle. I'm going to pare down to about 20 head of cattle this season, hopefully. And I need 1 bale of hay per 5 head of cattle every week. Right. So now I have to know how many.
Now we're talking cow math.
Now I'm doing cow math. But that stuff is important. And I think that people fail to realize that sometimes, that you're using real world. These are real world examples that we're doing with our kids.
Monica's kids are running around the barnyard going, solve for X.
Yeah. They're like, okay, if X is the hay bale necessity, how much are we? But that's what they're doing. It's real world stuff. And, you have to you have to be able to know how to take care of these problems. I have a 9-year-old that identified the fact that we had a sinus infection in our turkey and said, Mom, this is something going on with this turkey. And the 9 and 11-year-old were like, yeah, we need to put some antibiotics in its eye. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. I mean, how many 9 and 11-year-olds are like, that turkey has a sinus infection, Mom. We need to get this upper respiratory infection knocked out now before we lose it.
Yep.
That just doesn't happen. So, yeah.
Well, when I have the grandchildren come, then, I have a choice. I could either take them to the park, which we do go shopping and we go out to eat and we take them to the park and things like that. But the times that they have the most fun is when we have certain sections of the yard where they have planted the flower seeds, or we go and we talk about the different herbs and they can rub the different leaves and smell them so that they know that this is a peppermint and this is a spearmint and this is lemon balm, those kinds of things. We have our garden. I have a whole fence around my garden to keep out critters and kids. So when we open the gate to the garden, to the land of plenty, and let the children in, they love to come and pick all the crops and things like that. I mean, they might not like to eat them quite yet, but they do enjoy doing all of that. When we got our chickens, it was a treat for them. We went to the feed store and bought the chickens, and they each picked out their own chicken, and they each got to name it. And so we brought home their chickens that they decided that they liked. And so now each time they visit, they come and they pick up Charlotte or Sadie or Blackie or Jamie. And, they feel a connection to that particular chicken. And so I'm tickled to be able to see their excitement in what's going on right here, not at the store, not away eating wherever, and it's very endearing to see them.
It is, and I'm with you, Andale. I like to have, when we have our grandchildren over, number one rule: put the phone down. Yeah. I don't want you plastered to your smartphone the whole time you're over here at Grandma's house. And I try to find things that I can do with them that harkens back to yesteryear and times and things that I did with my grandma when I would visit my grandma and grandpa in the summertime at their farm. Well, I shouldn't say farm, but they had a rather large piece of property in a town in Iowa. And my grandfather loved to garden. And so I would have recently I've had my granddaughter over more than the others. And she's 13 now. She's going to be 13 on the 1st of November. But for over the last couple of years, she's been coming over, and we've done, like you said, we've planted the flowers, and she enjoys seeing the flowers come up. And she planted a whole bunch of flowers with me one year, and it was during her clumsy stage. I don't know how I survived, because there was dirt and water spilled everywhere, and she watered the deck a lot.
That's right.
But not necessarily the pots for the flowers. But she finished it, and we did it together. And then when her other grandma came out for a visit that summer from 1,700 miles away, the look on her face when she took her grandma around the farm and showed her grandma all the things that she had planted here on this farm was so heartwarming. But, I remember snapping peas or string beans, snapping string beans with my grandma. And, everybody talks about going back to the past and sitting in a rocking chair with grandma and snapping those beans. And I did that with her. We snapped the beans, and I showed her, what to do with this end and where you put this for the soup that we made for grandpa. And we put together a really nice soup for grandpa. And we take care of the chickens, and we, pick the cucumbers. And oh my gosh, cucumbers again. But all those things.
Feels triggered.
I was triggered by and I did it to myself. I did it to myself.
None of us did it this time.
I know. I'm my own worst enemy. But all those things that when the grandchildren come over, those are the things I like to do with them: is put the electronics away. We're not going to have the TV on. We're going to go out. We're going to go look at the new baby goats that were born. We're going to go down and we're going to brush the donkeys. We're going to go out. We're going to pick the cucumbers because grandma can't stand it anymore because there's so many of them that I'm having nightmares. but all these things that I've involved the grandchildren with, and I have a whole series of it on my YouTube channel. It's a grand day at the farm.
Right.
And it's all about the grandkids.
What
And
a
those are
great.
the things that they remember. And I had mentioned in our earlier podcast, you know, having my granddaughter over when she was 10, and I showed her how to make a double layer apple pie in a cast iron skillet, which I still need to film a video on that one
Ooh,
because it's so good.
yum.
But and we made homemade dog biscuits for the dogs, and those are the things she remembers.
Right.
And we were saying before, she remembers going out and finding the very first egg that our new batch of chickens laid.
Yeah.
And the other two little kids, they remember. The little one, my grandson, I think he was only 8 at the time, and now he's a senior in high school now. But he remembers our first batch of chickens, and in our boot room, we had them in a little container with their heat lamp and everything, and they sang the chickens to sleep. And they remember that. And that's what it's about, is finding the magical moments. We discussed before about magical moments.
Right.
Finding those magical moments on the homestead, whether you're on 10 acres, 1 acre, half acre, or if you're in an urban setting, or even if you're in an apartment, if you're homesteading, no matter how you're finding your avenue to do that, involve your children and make it so that it's memorable.
That's right. That's right. And Monica?
So I think that, one of the things you said that, I love when you have the kids get involved. One of the things that I want to say I read years ago was that when you really involve your kids in something, they take such ownership over it. Like you were saying, Alicia, where they were kind of, walking around, and with your grandbabies, and they've got their chickens. I think I saw one of your videos recently. You were picking that watermelon. Oh my word.
Yeah.
I bet you they totally love that watermelon. I was waiting to see if you crack it open, if it was red or not, because I have a problem where all my watermelons are never red. And so I was really like cheering for y'all. I was so excited. But, one of the things is my kids, absolutely, they're not like big tomato fans. So I started trying different varieties of tomatoes, and I was having them come out and help plant the different varieties, hoping that if I tried, different types of cherry tomatoes, different types of tomatoes, they would want to try it. And I noticed that they did. Even my niece. Yes. Okay. So my niece is 7. She's the same age as my youngest right now, and she'll be 8 this year. And I'll never forget, we were planting stuff at the beginning of last season, and she'd come over for something, and I was picking some plants, picking some tomatoes that she had helped me put in the garden last year. And we were picking those tomatoes, and she was like, "What are we going to do with these, Aunt Monica?" And she was only 6 at the time. And I said, "Oh, we're going to make salsa." And she's like, "Oh, I like salsa." I said, "Well, good. Your daddy loves salsa. So we're going to make some salsa that you can take home when you go home from your visit." And she was spending the night, and it was like a little sleepover we were having for the cousins. And so she made some salsa with me, and I let her have all that. I mean, I let her add the onion, and I let her add all the stuff into it. And she was so excited. Took a picture of this big old bowl of salsa, and she was so excited, and she loved it. And she was like, "That was really good salsa, Aunt Monica." And so when she came over this year, when her little sister was born, she was here in June, and she had spent the night, and she was like, "Aunt Monica, do you remember when we made salsa last year?" And I'm like, "Yes." I was like, "Do you want to make something this year?" And she was like, "Yes. What are we going to make?" And I was like, "Well, my tomatoes aren't doing very good this year, so Aunt Monica's not going to talk about that. But hold your ears, Alicia, earmuffs. I have cucumbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some pickles." And you know what? We made some refrigerator pickles, and she went home, and bless her sweet, sweet little heart. She gets home, and about 6 weeks later, she says, my sister's like, "By the way, those pickles, they tasted great. The ones that you and Selah made." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh my gosh, did she love them?" She's like, "No." She took a bite and ran to the bathroom and promptly spit it in the toilet and said, "That was horrible." And she was rinsing her mouth out. She's like, "But Barry and I liked it. It was good." And I was like, "Okay, I guess she don't like pickles." She knew. Now, the thing is that my niece knew when she was making these pickles with me that she didn't like pickles, but she was willing to try them because she made them.
Yeah.
And she helped me with every step of it. And I just thought it was so cool because I was like, this is how you get kids involved. You really let them take ownership over it, and they really enjoy it. And I do that with my own kids, but to do it with my niece, it was really cool because she remembered from last year, and she asked me again for this year. And sometimes I lose that in my own kids because I expect so much from my kids. I always expect my kids to be out there helping, and they have responsibilities, and I don't I think sometimes I lose the fun in it for
I
them. Like,
understand that.
I lose the fact that I want it to still be fun for them. When
Yeah.
I go in my garden and I'm picking vegetables, it's like I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I'm all like, this is amazing. But, but then there are
Until
days,
around September, and then you're like, all
right?
right, this has been real. It's been
So I was
fun.
going to say that. So by the end of the season, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to go out there right now. But
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I forget that my kids get like that too. And I
Right.
always want to help create those moments, like Alicia was saying, there's magical moments, but I want them to enjoy this part of it too, because
Right.
I don't know how many of them are going to do this when they get older. I don't know how many of them will live this lifestyle, and that's okay if they don't. We're first generational farming. And I think the episode before this one, you're going to hear us talk about, generational farming and how there are people that are 7 and 10 generations in. And I'm first generation here, really. I've had some
Right.
memories with my grandparents, but really, Eric and I are first generation farmers here and first generation everything we're doing. So
Yeah.
this is new for us. And I don't expect my kids to do this, but I want to give them a fun time at it so they have these
Right.
great memories. Because if it is something they want to do, I want it to be a good memory for them too.
Right. And, I think it's important for those who are listening to realize there are different layers of involving your children on the homestead. And, Monica, her children, they're a working, functioning farm. And so they have their tasks and their chores, like she said, and she still wants to interject the fun. Me, I'm just like, Papa Jim still has a job, and we don't, I have my tomatoes and my cucumbers, but mostly we're considered pretty much a hobby farm. And I'm just looking at things from the viewpoint of Charlotte and Wilbur and Fern visiting down in the barn cellar.
Right.
So I want my children to have the Charlotte's Web experience when they come to my farm.
Yes.
And so they don't have that level of responsibility. And that is a con and what is it? Pros and cons. There's
Yeah.
pros and cons to that. Monica's got pros and cons to her situation. Every situation is unique. So
Right.
Monica's children are going to be much more educated and available to go into this lifestyle and take care of themselves and recognize those things on the farm that need to be done. And mine are not. My grandchildren are going to be like, okay, ooh, a spider, there's Charlotte. And
Yeah.
so, and that's okay. What I want the
It is.
listeners to know,
Yep.
you all don't have to have the setup that I have. You all don't have to have the setup that Andale has or that Monica
Right.
has. But look for ways that you can get your children involved that goes towards the goal that you have, the vision that you have for your homestead. Cayce?
Well, I was going to ask, since, we're talking about getting kids involved on the homestead, both you and Dale have grown kids. Alicia, do your grown kids, do they like farming stuff? Do they like the garden or the chickens? Or is it kind of like, yeah, Mom, we love it for you, but not really our thing?
Well, my one son in California, I've got two sons in California. One, not into it at all. He's more into computers. The other has his own greenhouse, and he's growing things at his home, and he lives in a cul-de-sac. He lives in a little suburban area, so he's into it. And then out here where we live here in the Midwest, I've got two sons out here. One couldn't care less, even though he has worked in the hog industry before. The other works in the hog industry, has a greenhouse, has a garden outside, dabbles with chickens. So, it's according to what is their own individual desires, and the seeds are planted, and then you just have to let them run. So I've got two that are kind of techies and two that are growers.
Okay. Yeah, well, and as far as my grown children, they appreciate it for us. My daughter, so surprisingly enough, wants chickens and she likes a garden, but putting forth the effort is just not there. And my son is like, "Yeah, that's great, Mom, but I'm gonna go fishing and hunting, and you grow the veggies, and I'll bring the other stuff." So that's okay. That's okay too.
That's a good deal right there, I
It is a
think.
good deal, man.
Yeah,
Especially get
he's
some
like,
meat.
Mama, you grow all the stuff to make the salsa. I'll bring the chips.
That's right. That's right. It works out great. But as far as involving like the grandchildren, and Cayce, you had discussed of potentially once you have an opportunity and God has placed in your life where you get to foster, and you were considering homeschooling. We did something, and you can do this all day, every day. It would be fun. But instead of having to crack the books so much, we found our Charlotte's Web at our home as well. Garden spider that had made a nest and made a web. And we went out and talked to it and counted the legs on the spider, came in, Googled spiders so that they would know the different parts of a spider, turned on the movie Charlotte's Web to let them watch that so that you can incorporate anything and everything all around your daily life that is sort of like the magic school bus. I don't know if y'all remember the magic school bus, but
I do. Ooh, ooh.
yes, you could just take a square of the yard and go and check it every day. And we have done that as well. And you see the different wildlife that's in there and the different growth that's in there or the different death that's in there. It's fun. And Alicia?
Yeah, my same granddaughter who's been very involved here on the farm with me the last few years. I had picked up a really cute little patio set. And I wanted it to be her own little area in the garden for her to have this little magical patio set. And I was able to get little garden hooks and hang little tea kettles, the little fancy
Oh
little
my
porcelain
goodness.
teapots. So it was her tea garden.
Yeah.
But then we put one of those cattle panel arches up and I had her plant some sugar snap peas. So then it became her pea garden. And every time she would come over, it had peas and morning glories.
Oh my
And every
goodness.
time she'd come over, she would go out to her little wrought iron little patio set and it would have all of the little teapots hanging from the hooks. And she would pick the snap peas that she had grown and she loved eating them. And it's so easy to grow the sugar snap peas. And
Yeah.
that's that little bit of magic that you can interject into your children's lives. And it's just like what Monica said. Monica's little ones love to just go out there and help her pick things in the garden. And it's
That's right.
magical. And it's magical because I know Monica loves to zhuzh and skip and throw seeds everywhere, and everything grows wherever.
She's a
and I know
pretty princess.
she is, and I know that her children see that and love that. And it's going to be one of the great memories that they have is that garden with their mom.
I agree.
Well, it's funny because what you guys are actually talking is about something my sister and I, we both homeschool our kids and we both have, homesteads, farming and things like that. My sister she's more of a bookworm and she likes to read and she does the Charlotte Mason style of learning. And I've really morphed the way I'm teaching my kids into that style. But, we really her and I talk all the time about really creating a culture of learning and always being open to new things, because I feel like that's something that the Lord's really put in our hearts. It's not, if you stay closed off to all the new opportunities, and Alicia, you said it before, where you just have to be open to learning new things and to just go with the seasons of life and be open to all the different adventures that are out there. When you really keep yourself open to those things, and when you create a lifestyle and a culture of learning in your home, your kids are going to follow that, hopefully. And all my kids may not end up in agricultural, situations where they're doing agricultural things for their lifestyle. My oldest is married and has a job and he doesn't do that. He's in the building industry like my husband. And then, my second son who's, he's looking at computers and stuff like that. He's not going to go into agricultural things, and that's okay to me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And if I have, out of 8 children, if I have not a single one of them that wants to live this lifestyle, that's okay as well. I'll just have to make sure that I can enough beef that I have it until I die. But, or make sure I make one of them feel guilty enough to help me on the farm keep my animals alive until we're gone. But, no, I mean, that's the thing. I want them to enjoy this life because we really truly feel like the Lord has moved us here for them.
Right.
Not only for us, but it's for our whole family, which is to offer them a better life, a life where they have more opportunities here. They have an opportunity to know what's in their food. We have an opportunity to grow our own food, whether it's in the garden or in the pasture. We are putting things in our body that we know how it started out from the moment we put it into the ground or it hit the ground. We
That's
know. Right. And that part is really important to us. And so, yeah, I
And
mean, I've really tried to create that culture for them. Yeah, sure.
That's wonderful.
And like Cayce said, Monica, about your children, they're smart. So if they choose not to continue on this lifestyle, they have such a firm foundation of knowledge that they're going to be able to carry that on into any path that they choose.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of it, is you're not letting, and I know I'm going to step on some toes here. You're not letting the internet raise your children. You're not letting the TV raise your children. You're not letting the gaming and, all of the handheld games. You're not letting that be the babysitter and raising the children.
Well, I just have to say, Miss Monica is the Sims queen now. So we can't say gaming.
Let me just tell you right now, my 13-year-old is probably sitting by the door waiting to come into this room so he can play a video game until midnight because he has like a cutoff time. Usually he has to be in bed by like 11:30. And I know this joker is literally waiting probably by the door like, Mom, are you almost done recording? I've got to get in there. I need to get my game on.
There's balance.
Of course.
You have balance to it. And I think that's, so they've got their work ethic on one end of the spectrum, and then they have their free time, and they can pursue the things that bring them joy on the other end of the spectrum, and that is so important.
They do.
So they're going to have such a great foundation when they grow up and move on and take the path that they choose. So I think it's really very commendable.
Well, I think it's one of those things that if you allow your kids, here's the thing though, I've seen so many people be so hardcore about the whole, you have to do this. There's no video games. The internet, as you would say, Alicia, right? The internet is not raising my children. Game systems are not raising my children. You cannot have that. That's too much TV time. 1 hour of TV time. Look, I'm going to be for real. Okay. I'm going to be real for real. I do not wake up at 7 a.m. to start teaching my children. No, that is not the life that I live. I am a night owl. I am up until all hours of the night. My children are up late. We are just night owls. We are just late night people by nature. There are many nights where my 11-year-old will come to me and say, Mom, I'm not sleepy. Can I just do my schoolwork for tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, bro, go get it done. And it's 9:00 at night. He doesn't want to go to bed. He's like, can I just work on some schoolwork? I'm like, yeah, go for it, man. He's like, if I get all my schoolwork done before the end of the week, can I play video games on Friday when we get back from co-op? Yes, you can, buddy. Because here's the thing. I want my kids to know how to manage their time. Right. They have tasks for the week. They have things they have to get done. And at the end of the day, if they can get all their things done and they want to have a little bit more time for games or for watching TV, whatever it is, I want them to know how to organize that time because that's something I was never really taught. I went to school, came home, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hate school at this point. I mean, I loved it, but I hated it because I didn't want to be there anymore because it was just so long and it was drawn out and it was just annoying. Right. And I want my kids to know how to decompress because I feel like sometimes as adults, we don't know how to effectively decompress from our busy craziness of life. And if my kids want to just sit and watch Good Luck Charlie on Disney Channel or whatever it is for a few months. And my kids said the other day, Abigail walked in and she was like, boys, how many episodes have you watched of this? And they were like, we don't know. We're on season 4 already. And she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, they probably watched like 4 episodes, Abigail. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of TV. And I'm like, I literally could care less. I was doing something. They were having a good time. They were being quiet. You know what? They're not learning anything bad. They're having a good time. They're sitting there playing with each other while they're watching TV. Yeah. You know what? They live their life. It is
but
what
I also know that the animals were fed and watered and things were tended to, and they've got that balance that you've taught them, which is so wonderful.
Exactly. Cayce, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I wanted to add that, we're talking about the kids on the homestead, and even though I don't have kids on the homestead right now, I have a brother who acts like a child 90% of his life. And I have to remind myself with him and his wife that even if they don't want to get into this lifestyle, that I can't kind of force it on them. Because when you move to your homestead, you sometimes you have your plans, you lay it all out. And sometimes plans change, folks. And I'm like, oh, this is not what I had planned. I had planned that we all lived out here and we all have separate homes and the birds fly
Yeah.
over our home every morning. And it doesn't work out that way. But let me just say that when we got chickens, I just had to throw this in because this is so random, that I actually saw interest in Brother Chris and Sis
Oh, okay.
Tara on homesteading. It was very exciting that it took chickens. Now, it could have taken the garden that I sweated and cried and kicked and screamed over for 4 months and harvested. And literally, Brother Chris and Sis Tara came right after and said, hey, do you got any jalapenos in the freezer?
Are you enjoying the hay bale topics? To learn more, click on the Linktree link to get all of our product recommendations, along with discount codes and more.
Yes. Do you? But
Friend, that's why there's such a thing called chicken math, and there's not such a thing called garden math.
No, I garden math now.
Your chickens
I
are the
garden
gateway.
and chicken and yes, put it in through
the
a
chickens
vein.
are the gateway. Everybody's interested in the chickens. Not everybody's interested in the hard work and toil of the little red hen story.
Well, until the
making
fridge
stone
is
soup.
empty, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you,
Until the fridge is empty.
they always ask when you don't have nothing. My mother-in-law is notorious for being like, "Oh, really quick, I need tomatoes. Do you happen to have a tomato?" And I'm like, "No, it's been 150 degrees for 7 weeks. I have not a single tomato unless it's frozen or in a jar. Are you joking me right now? I am not the Brookshires, okay? I am not the Costco. I do not have fresh tomatoes." But that's how people always do.
Yeah.
By the way, do you have any fresh cabbage? No, it's the dead
No.
of summer. I do not have fresh cabbage.
Do you get that, Andale, with your kids? Like, hey, Mom, by the way, do you have this in your garden that I can grab?
They're wonderful kids. They were horrendous teenagers. Absolutely. They're horrible, horrible teenagers. And, both of us, none of us knew whether they were what. Anyway, they're fabulous, awesome adults. So I will take it.
I've been down that road, Anna. I've been down that road with 4 boys. I hear you.
Bad teenagers, both of them. And the girl did exactly the same kind of stuff that the boy did, but she was sneaky and he wasn't. So he got caught for everything. She still did it, and I knew it. And so whatever. But no, they're not so much like that. They're very grateful because honestly, this is new to me. I've only been doing this 2021? 2020 was our first garden. And so I've only been doing this for a short period of time. And they're like, go, Mom. All right. I'm getting a jar of pickles from you. And yeah, I like those tomatoes that you've canned over there. Thank you. And this jelly is delicious. I mean, I didn't know you had it in you, Mom. That kind of thing. So it's nice. It's very nice.
I feel like my mom is like your kids because my mom lives so far away and she only gets what I bring her on occasion when I visit her. And she said to me a few weeks ago, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I miss the tomatoes that you brought the last time. And I miss the salsa that you made. And those pickles were so good." She's like, "Monica, I can't eat a pickle. Like it's not the same." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being grateful. I love you so much because these people around here are ungrateful turds sometimes. Like, what is wrong with them?"
Yeah.
My kids are like, "Mom, did you make any more salsa? We're almost out." And I'm like, "No, I didn't. What's wrong with you people?"
We didn't grow cucumbers this year. I planted, nothing even germinated. I'm running short on pickles. I know, but I was willing to go down that road again because I'm running short on pickles.
You're such a brave soul.
Which is just crazy because, I canned so many pickles. I thought I'd never run out. But I had picked up some pickles in the deli the other day, and I served dinner the other day, and I gave Jim one of those pickles. He's like, "What trash is this?" I said, he goes, "These are not your pickles." I said, "No, they're from the store." He wouldn't eat it. I had to throw them all to the chickens. And I just ripped into some of my refrigerator pickles. They had finally been in there long enough, and I gave one to him. He's like, "This is what I'm talking about."
Yeah.
See,
it's always nice.
I have my grown son who lives around the corner. He's 40. He comes over, and there is always a jar of bread and butter, pickles with onions in the fridge that's only his because he comes over and he opens up the jar and he eats it by the forkful. And he
Right.
just loves those pickles. And so even though he's 40, he's still my baby. And so I
Yeah.
always have pickles in the fridge for him.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Well, I mean, Monica, I had a thought. I'm sorry, Casey, but we'll get you right in there. Your children, eh, my children came up assuming that everything that I did was what moms do or what dads do. They were just used to it. And so it wasn't anything special if I did something around the house or things like that. So now that they didn't grow up with me canning or preserving or growing, they appreciate it a great deal. The grandchildren aren't going to know any different, and they're going
Yeah.
to think, "Hey, I want some pickles or I want some salsa. You got any salsa?" That kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it'll be different.
That makes sense.
Well, I was just
Yeah.
going to say, because since all of us can, and the ones that aren't vegetarians eat, homegrown meat and stuff, that pointing to Alicia, it's crazy what you said about Papa Jim, how you truly can taste the difference. Like,
Right.
we started off, our gateway into homegrown meat was Monica's meat that she brought over so graciously when she came to visit.
Yeah.
Then we kind of segued into our other gateway, which was a girl that we work with at the farmer's market and getting her meat there. And the other day I just was out of it until we could go back to the farmer's market. So I did blasphemy and I bought ground beef at the store.
Shame.
And
That's awful.
I got it up because I really needed it for a recipe. And I tried it and I was like, I just wasted $7
Yeah.
because I can't eat this. It's got to be thrown away. It's got to be thrown away. And it's funny to hear you say that about Papa Jim and the pickles, because now, like Brother Chris, Sis Tara, my mom, they don't want store-bought salsa. It has to be salsa from the garden. It tastes different. It's fresher. Even if you can it, there's just something about it that, chef's kiss. It's like, don't give me that paste. I don't want that paste stuff no more.
Yeah. We're just amazed at the taste and the difference. So Worth cans with me. Usually we can together. And when it finishes, he's so proud of himself. And he'll taste it and go, "Man, this is really good. This is really, really good. This is all
I
right."
love that.
Well, you stand and you look at, like, well, I know I do. I may be crazy, but I stand and I get into my pantry where all my canned stuff is. And sometimes I just have to stare at it and be like, dang, boy, you done did it. You done brush your shoulders off. Like, I was looking before we started recording the podcast, and I was in there and I was like, you just don't, you can't explain the pride you feel when you're looking at, I grew that and then I canned it. And I took the 400 billion hours to pressure can that item. And it's very rewarding. And the good thing is it tastes good as well. So it's not just it looks pretty, it does taste good.
And, Ann Dale mentioned that, her husband is in the kitchen with her canning. And, in our last episode, we were talking about keeping relationships healthy on the homestead. And it's such an important thing to involve your spouse, helpmate, children, grandchildren
in the process, because it's a bonding time. And, when I'm out in my summer kitchen and I've got the big pressure cookers going, there's times, here's those magic memories that I'm talking about. I remember so vividly a time that we were out in the summer kitchen and it began to snow. And we were canning on the big propane cooker, and the canners are going, and I've got the timer set, and we've got time that we have to pass. And the snow is falling, and we turned music on, and we danced in my summer kitchen while the canners were going. And that is such a beautiful memory.
Yeah.
Now, I could have had my canners going in the kitchen, and he could have been falling asleep watching a football game, with a candy bar sticking out of his mouth, or he could have been with me out in the summer kitchen while it softly snowed. And we had 1940s music, big band music going while we were dancing in the kitchen. That's That's what it's about. And it doesn't matter, whether it's your husband, your children, your grandchildren. Those are the memories right there. And
That's
getting everybody involved. Find those moments and get them involved in the homestead that way.
That's right.
Alicia, what is the snow of which you speak? we don't understand that word.
Do not tempt Georgia.
It is a 4-letter word in some regions of the nation. But you know what? I woke up on July 4th, 2015, out of surgery, not knowing if I'd ever see snow again because of a cancer diagnosis. And I remember when my mother had a brain aneurysm and she couldn't see anymore, I would have to explain the snow to her when it fell. And she loved the snow. She grew up in Iowa most of her life, and she loved the snow. And so for her to not see it again, it was such heartache for her. And so I would have to explain it to her. And now, every fall without fail, I listen to the people who have lived here forever and cannot stand snow, complain and moan and groan about the snow. And I tell them, this may be your last snowfall. You need to appreciate it because you never know.
That's
Find
right.
the magic in the snowfall and appreciate it. Yes, by March, I know everybody's complaining because it's been snowing for months. But every time there's a first snowfall, it's like I made it to another winter. I get to enjoy the snow again and not look at the bitter cold and the inconvenience and the, frozen snotsicles. I look for the beauty in everything. And if that means dancing in the summer kitchen while I'm canning, then that's what I go for.
I think it's really about your perspective, though. You had a really great perspective in that. And, we talk about these kids and raising kids on the homestead or involving kids, grandkids. Maybe it's not your kids. Maybe it's the kids at your church. Maybe it's wherever. But I think sometimes we look at kids, some people, I've never looked at my kids as burdens, but I have people that I have known that have acted like they were. Every time my first couple kids that I said I was pregnant with, they were like, "Oh my gosh, congratulations!" And then by the time I got to the 4th and 5th pregnancy I was announced, people are like, "Oh my gosh, don't you know how that happens?" Oh my gosh. And you should hear some of the things people actually open their mouth and literally vomit out at you when you're pregnant the 6th or 7th or even 8th time. And it can be very hurtful. But I feel like sometimes when people are living on a homestead, they have bigger families, maybe they homeschool, maybe they do it for religious reasons, whatever it is. Babies can be really hard to manage in that season of life when you're dealing with being on a homestead. Most of my kids, when we moved here in 2014, my youngest was only 4 months old. May, June, July, 3 months old. He was 3 months old, and we traveled across the country from Maryland to Texas. We made it a 4-day trip because we knew we needed to break it down and break it up a little bit, kind of take the sting out of literally tearing my children away from the entire world and moving to a place they've never even seen. We moved into this house sight unseen. My children and I had never seen this house in person. We just came, and we all of a sudden have a house and a farm. And so when we're traveling and all those things, I all of a sudden was thrown into a homestead situation with cows and chickens and ducks and all these things. And I have a 4-month-old on my hip.
Oh,
That was a lot different than having a 4-month-old in my townhome in Maryland. And so I had to learn really quickly how to involve him, how to incorporate my littles. So if you have littles and you're listening in and you're listening to us talk about our older babies and our older grands and all the other ones, if you have babies, just remember you can carry those babies. You can wear them on your back. My daughter, she was only 9 at the time. And I have a video of her, and I have video of her walking around carrying my little boy, my Simeon, who was only 4 and 5 months old. She was carrying him on her back in the little cruising little carrier, and she's walking around, and I was in the garden, and she was like, "Mom, I'll take the baby." And she was walking around kind of just rocking him and holding him while I was doing new things that were brand new to me. And I was just trying to embrace those moments. And I could have looked at it as, oh my gosh, these kids are such a burden for me right now because I need to get outside and I need to do X, Y, and Z because this is the life that I want to live. But instead, thankfully, the Lord really laid it on my heart to just allow each other. We all helped each other, and it became a privilege to show these little kids what it was like to get their feet in the dirt and to watch them sit in the pasture when they were only 6 months old and they're sitting up and they're in the dirt. And, I've had people say to me, "Oh my gosh, your kids are outside with no socks and no shoes. They're going to get pinworms." Okay, look, trust me, I threaten my kids all the time. You're going to get worms running outside barefoot. But I think it's fantastic when I see my 7-year-old run outside and he's wearing just shorts and he's living his best life. But if you have those babies, take them outside. If you have those babies, get them that fresh air. Take them outside. Show them what you're doing. Get a little play area. Put some shading over it. Whatever it is, get them outside and don't hold yourself back because you think that it's not okay to take the babies out. Just remember, those babies are not a burden. They're a blessing, and that you can introduce them to that lifestyle in whatever way you see fit. And don't get caught up in that. Look at it from that perspective of, this is their time as well, and teach them to always be there and be around you, every moment you have, because like Alicia said, you just don't know when your next moment is your last, really. If you think about it, when is it going to be your last chance? Every chance I get, I ride on the tractor with Eric to go put out hay bales or to go move things around. Even if it's just back and forth, he's mowing the grass in the pasture. He's topping off the weeds. If I have a chance to go spend 30 minutes sitting next to my husband, listening to the loud sounds of a tractor, but just looking at the beautiful creation that God has provided for us,
right,
I'm taking that 30 minutes and I'm just enjoying every minute of it.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about having the children with you on your homestead, but don't forget you can be a child at heart, just like what Monica said. I love taking the tractor rides with Papa Jim. One of my favorite memories is just driving down our gravel road with me standing on the back of the tractor with my arms on his shoulders, and it's pitch black, but the entire strip of road on either side in the ditches is just full of thousands of lightning bugs, little fireflies, with their little butts lighting up and twinkling the whole way. It was so magical. But here we are. We're in our 50s, and this weekend Papa Jim went with me on a walk because I'm on this walking challenge. And as we're walking, we went to a nature preserve and we're walking, and we got our exercise in, but we also took the time to really take in what was around us. And he's like, look at how many dragonflies are out here. And oh my gosh, look at that bee. And look at how many little frogs are jumping across the path in front of us. So involve your children in that as well. Take them on those nature hikes. If you're not on an actual, what you consider to be a homestead with acreage, maybe you're living in the suburban area, go to a botanical garden. Go to the nature trails around you. There's so many ways that you can introduce your children to this, and they'll bring that memory and that message back to your home, and they'll have that appreciation. Maybe they'll take that path when they grow up, like what we were talking about earlier. You don't know what direction or what path your children are going to take. Plant the seeds. Give them the foundation. They might grow up and they might have a longing to have a homestead of their own, and you've introduced them to the intricacies. What's the word I'm wanting, guys? Intricacies. The intricacies of
ding, ding, ding.
Entomology, of learning about bugs and insects and frogs and how they're beneficial to your garden. All these things that's available to you, even if it's not right there in your home / AKA homestead. You have things available to you. Take them to a nature preserve. Take them to a farm. Take them to places where they can get those seeds planted.
That's right. That's right. Well, I knew that I have my set of grandchildren, James and Millie, that live about 3 hours from me. I do spend quite a bit of time with them and at their home. And so they live closer to a big city. Well, I knew I had ruined my grandchildren when one of the first places we went in Walmart to buy something, I don't know, sugar, let's just say sugar. It wasn't sugar, but we went in there to buy something. But I had marched in there and told them the whole time, we are not getting any toys. You are not getting a prize this time. We are not getting toys. And they're like, okay, all right. They dealt with it. But when we got ready to leave, the thing that especially my granddaughter really put up a fight about and really wanted was a plant. She went in the plant section. She was feeling all the leaves and smelling everything. And then I went, I mean, not ruined her, but
that's precious, though. That is so cute.
She really she really wanted a plant. So
did you get her the plant?
No, I didn't get her the plant. It was $15, so I didn't get that plant. But we did go home and plant some seeds. How's that? That's all
There,
right.
Okay,
well,
Matt,
there you go.
that's-
You planted the seed in a different way.
That's a
That's
good
right.
alternative. That's a good
Yeah.
alternative. Well, it's funny because you say that too, and I was just thinking, whenever you do allow kids to do something on your homestead or on your farm, when you're getting your kids involved, your grandbabies and stuff, or the kids that are maybe coming from wherever, just whatever you do, don't let them see you correct what they've done. And that's a
Right.
tip from me to you, from whoever's out there listening. If you feel tempted, I don't know if any of y'all are the Christmas tree decorators in your house, but I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to this is the way I relate everything in my mind. So Eric is a perfectionist through and through, and he likes things very particular and a very meticulous way. And I love that about him because I am not so much that
I was
way.
about to say, Eric, meticulous. Who would
Very
have thought
meticulous.
it?
But when we do our Christmas tree every year, my kids are the ones that put it up. And we have a multitude every year. My kids get a different ornament and they can either pick it out or they make it or whatever it is. And we have a menagerie of different varieties of ornaments all over our tree. And wherever my kids put them, that is where they stay. And I have a friend who's like, how could you just let it stay? There's gaping holes in areas. And I'm like, because I don't want to go behind them. Now, do I gently coax my children to around the back and sometimes say, hey, don't forget the back. It's kind of empty. But I don't go behind them. And I try to do that with the homestead as well when it comes to gardening and things like that.
I mean, Monica,
Right.
like I said before, I'm in my 50s.
Yeah.
I still have, I don't want to use the word traumatic, but heartbreaking memories of my grandmother correcting things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, I'm 5, 6, 7, 14 years old. She was always coming behind me. That's not the way you load a dishwasher. This is the way you load a dishwasher.
Yeah.
This is the way you do it. It was constant and it wears you down. So from the tiniest little thing, like you said, planting a plant, cutting your tomatoes,
Mm-hmm.
decorating your Christmas tree, guide, but don't overstep because little hearts are tender. And those pains stick. I mean, I'm still a little girl at heart dealing with a lot of those pains, and I should be over it by now. But Monica, I mean, it made me remember it's important as adults that when we have our children and our grandchildren in our presence and we're training them up the way that they need to be brought up, that we don't break those tenders.
That's
our
right.
little chicken tenders. Don't hurt them.
Well, they will have those memories and that's the thing. I want my kids to have great memories, fond memories with their grandparents. And, they're going to have memories with their mom and it's going to be like, yo, mom did this. I mean, look, I'm going to be real honest. Abigail is the one that loads the dishwasher. And I get all nervous when I try to load the dishwasher now because I see her like watching eyes, like judging me over my shoulder. If you guys could see my face right now, you see like I have like terror. Like I load the dishwasher and I know my 18-year-old literally comes behind me and redoes it. She's like, well, you could put it in a little better, mom. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Okay. So I try, maybe somehow I did that to her, but I try really hard not to do that to my boys or to her because I want them to know that I value their style of doing things because everybody does things differently, like you said, and everybody has a different style and a different way about them. And just like everyone learns differently, everybody does things differently. And I want to encourage them to be unique in that way too. So
how boring would life be if we all did the same things same way?
That's
day
right.
after day after day. You have to have that versatility.
Yes.
Well, friends, here on the panel and friends out there in the radio world and podcast world, thank you so much for joining us. We're out of time. It's been a great subject. And I just want to thank everybody for spending this time with us as we talk about having children around on our homestead and how to just plant those seeds and bring them up in a way where they have appreciation for what we're doing and moving forward, regardless of what path they decide to take. So join us again for our next podcast. Make sure you catch our radio show the day after podcasts air. So the podcasts always air on Mondays, and then the radio show follows up on Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Central. We're going to go ahead and close out for the day, and we'll see you here next week. So make sure until we see you again, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Have a blessed day, and we're going to end our show with our music producer, Kyle Kelly. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Join your hosts back here next week on Round the Hay Bale.